We got 5 seconds. All right. Well, Kufar Akbar, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Cross and the Crescent discussion group. This is a blog talk radio program dedicated to rightly dividing the truth between Christianity and Islam. We're here every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, and Tuesday evenings at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're usually here for about 2 hours. Sometimes it's longer. If Paul Sutcliffe is hosting, then it's 2 hours and 42 minutes and 38 seconds. If I'm hosting, I can't hang that long. I do not have the stamina that Paul is. He is a youthful young man, and he's able to.
We're days apart in age. Come on.
Well, you're younger than me, so there you go. Now, okay, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to poll the audience. Connie, don't say a word. Is she still here? Did she drop off? I don't see her.
She's still
okay. Then she can't talk if she's not here. No, she's not. She's not here. Looks like she dropped. Isa, you're here twice. How do you do that?
I only seen here once.
Okay, here's the deal. Isa, can you drop one of those? Because we got a full house here today. I'm not sure if you're listening.
I only see him here once.
Yeah.
No, I see him. Isa Kibir and oh no, that is Connie. Connie is still here. Okay, I'm sorry, my fault. All right, sorry. I was thinking Isa and Connie because it says Isa and the other one says Islam. ISIS.
Oh,
reading comprehension, guys. Oh my gosh. Okay, so people in chat, Connie, behave. Don't come up on mic yet. People in chat, because we were having this knockdown, drag out argument before we got on air here today about what Muslims believe about Jesus being crucified. Okay, I got my phone. Okay. All right. About Jesus being crucified. So my question to you is, let me rephrase this. Did Jesus die on a cross? So if you believe that, this is what Muslims believe, not what I don't care. Well, I do care what you believe, but what do Muslims believe? Do Muslims believe Jesus died on a cross or don't they? So we'll wait for this poll here to come in. We'll wait patiently. We'll wait. Okay, guys, this wasn't a trick question. Okay. Almost all say he wasn't. Okay, thank you. Mary. Dominic is here. Hello, Dominic. Okay. Because there are conflicting stop, Mary. Don't be doing that, because she puts down the answer because there's conflicting verses. Okay, that's right. There are conflicting verses. And here's what we were saying at the beginning of the show before Connie about ripped my head off. She was adamant about this. Clifford, why are you here twice? How did that happen?
Weird things going on.
Clifford's
Okay,
in
let me
limbo on one
remove this
side,
one.
and
Okay,
there we go.
There we go. Okay, got it. All right, so all right. And here's my argument for this. I was saying, you know what? If Muslims want to believe that Jesus didn't die on a cross, because it's very clear in 4:157. It's very clear in 4:157. This is the go-to verse that they cite all the time. Let me put this back here. Sorry. It says, because of their saying, the Jews said, we crucified Jesus, the son of Mary, the Messiah, but it only appeared to them. Okay, so golly, popping in and out. It only appeared to them. Now, many Muslims will say, well, Jesus was never crucified on the cross. And I'm okay with them saying that. And the reason why is because that clearly demonstrates that their Allah had no clue. He's a historical illiterate. Because everybody will say that Jesus was crucified on the cross. Anybody with any sense of history, how to do history, anybody that picks up a history book will say that Jesus was crucified on the cross. So if your Allah says that Jesus wasn't crucified on a cross, your Allah is a historical illiterate. However, as Connie was making the point, is that there are indeed verses in the Quran that says that Jesus says that he died. And both of them, all of them are ambiguous and can make several different applications, is my argument. However, I would like to go with the argument that the Muslim, because 98% of the Muslims do believe that Jesus was not crucified. And it's because of 4:157. But if we want to bring somebody on like that, Connie, I don't have a problem bringing him on at all. But that's something that I would like to that we're going to need to discuss, if that's okay with you. Is she even there? Connie, are you even there?
Well,
Connie,
can you guys hear me? I'd just like to throw this in there. So
yes, Brad, go
yes,
ahead.
I'm here. Okay. So the verses that say that he's alive, like he'll pay zakat to the day he dies, Muslims like to claim for some reason, I don't know why, because they have a hadith or some such nonsense, that this is what he will return. See, right now he's alive somewhere. They don't know where, but he's alive. What his job is that he's using to make money to pay the zakat, they don't know. But either way, they say that he's going to come back, and then he's going to be married and have kids. Okay,
with Mary.
And
am I right on that?
No. That's Ahmadiyyan say that.
Oh,
okay, but the Sunni Muslims believe that Muhammad will marry Mother Mary. Okay, because only a prophet could marry such a noble woman. I mean, that's just going to
Could you imagine being Mary sitting in heaven knowing that this is coming?
Yeah, that would be a horrible
Muhammad.
thing.
You mean that guy that had 12 wives and had sex with them all in one night and never took that guy? I'm marrying that guy.
I guess you want number 13.
But in all fairness, Eric, Muhammad did use Jamal, the body wash for men. So
extracted from camel urine, the best quality camel urine that we can raise in Arabia, yes. And
exactly.
when they're no longer a sponsor, this is true.
Yes, I know.
This is true. Okay. All right. So today, what are we talking about today? Today we have our dear sister, Chloe Waken. Now, Chloe spends more time in Clubhouse than I believe she does in her classroom. And I don't know, Chloe, let me ask you, you can come up on mic. Does your professors know how much time you spend on Clubhouse at all?
Actually, I'm only taking one class for the summer semester since that was all available. But yeah, I do end up I have a lot of people that I love dearly on Clubhouse that I talk to on a daily basis. So that's why there also happens to be a lot of pro-abortion.
Well, I get alerts. I get alerts on the bat phone all the time, and
I don't even talk that much.
Chloe's I know, and I say Chloe is in such and such a room talking again. I'm like, oh, well, that's a shocker. But it also says that DL Tate is in a room talking, which I find that's a shocker too, because he never talks here, but he's always talking on Clubhouse. Anyway, it's always great to have you guys, both of you guys here today. Everybody that's here today, I appreciate everybody coming today. We're going to be talking about Chloe's favorite topic, and this is her this, what do we would say? This is your seminal issue, or
My field. This
your
is
what?
My field. My
Yeah,
field
this is
study.
yeah, this is what she does. So we're gonna have Chloe talk a little bit. I prepared a slideshow. I know you all are shocked, and I really don't want to go through that first because I want to hear what Chloe has to say about the overturning, what her thoughts are on the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and what that means. And I want to know what that means to you, for somebody who has fought for, I don't know how long you've been fighting this. I mean, I know you have a passion for this, that you went to
About 5 years, 6 years.
5, 6. Okay, there you go. And, and just to be fair to Chloe, Chloe is in college. So that means that 5 to 6 years is a long time for her. I'm just saying, because she's younger. Okay. But she's dedicated a large portion of her life, even if it was 5 to 6 years. For somebody like Clifford, that would be just like a drop in the bucket. Or for me, that was 5 or 6 years.
I was 14. I was 14 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Woo!
So
Congrats for starting at 14. That's exciting.
She's dedicated a large part of her life for fighting for the rights of the unborn. And what this decision has done is that it hasn't stopped abortion in our country. And that will only be, and to be honest with you, the only time that will stop is with the moving of the Holy Spirit. You are not going to keep people from having that desire to kill that life within them for convenience or whatever reason it is, without the moving of the Holy Spirit. But we have been fortunate to have 3 of the 5 Supreme Court justices that voted against or voted for the overturning of this ruling were appointed by President Trump. Now, whatever your feelings are of President Trump are, well, then ask Rad. He'll tell you what you should believe about President Trump.
Thank you, Jesus, for Donald Trump. Thank you, Donald Trump, for appointing the 3 justices. And let's go, Brandon.
Okay. And there you go. So, Chloe, what I want to do is I want to hear your take on all of this, and you can take as much time as you want and get as detailed as you want. And we'll just kind of chime in and carry on the conversation as we go about this. So the mic is yours, my lady.
Wow. Thank you. What an honor. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Eric, for inviting me. Thank you, panel, for having me be a part of the panel. So yeah, 14 is kind of when I started understanding what abortion was and what it entailed. It really wasn't until 11th grade that I decided I wanted to be a constant active part of the pro-life movement and advocating for the right to life, especially for the most innocent among us in the womb. And 11th grade is actually when I decided what I wanted to go to college to become. So I am going to start my junior year of undergrad to become an obstetrician gynecologist. So working with women's health, working with pregnancies, birth, all these types of things. So that is what I'm currently in college to do. Lord willing, in 6 years, I'm planning on graduating with an MD. So it's a little bit about me, what I'm doing. And yeah, was it last month, June 24th, 2022, is when they finally said, you know what? The Supreme Court has decided that Roe versus Wade is actually not constitutional. Abortion has no standing in your so-called rights. And when that happened, I woke up to like thousands of text messages from friends and from people who they know what I do, what I advocate for, basically what my ministry is. And I like text messages and articles, even from people I advocated with. I've in 2020, I went to the Women's March with my university. We went to counteract the Women's March, which is basically a pro-abortion march that they do in Washington, D.C. So we went to counteract them, and we stood in the corner of the Supreme Court, and we had signs and pictures, and we were basically just trying to have start a conversation with these pro-abortion people who were in the crowd. And if I tell you the amount of stories that happened that day, because the people knew that we were counteracting their pro-abortion march, spat at, cursed at. They had spray paint bottles, and they were spray painting our signs that had like pictures of like babies in them, like unborn babies in the womb, showing them that this is a human being. Endless stories from that day. And then this year, back in January, January 21st, I went to the March for Life in Washington, D.C. Over 50,000 people were marching for life. And it's like when you're in that element, like Christians, like flat out Bible believing Christians, from every denomination of the three major branches of Christianity were there. And you could tell that like the Holy Spirit was there, and it just felt like one body of Christ, like the most amazing feeling I've ever felt. And then fast forward to June, I'm still making videos, advocating, talking to people, quote unquote, debating people, and just having a conversation. And I feel like this is definitely the overturning of Roe versus Wade is a big step forward in the right direction. We're not done yet, right? We just won a major battle. And hopefully it stays this way, and we're going to continue to win more.
Okay. Now you mentioned that the reason why you got involved in this was something that happened to you when you were in the 11th grade. You said you were a junior in high school. Did you say specifically what had happened, or
11th grade? I took an anatomy and physiology class, and I loved science. Actually, before I wanted to be an OBGYN, I knew I wanted to do something in the medical field. I wanted to be a pediatrician before. And then once I took anatomy physiology, I just aced everything. But I specifically, when we were learning like the reproductive system, I fell in love with just that area and that field. And that's how I kind of got interested in that. And then God kind of just took my passion for being pro-life and my passion for science and the specific area of science that I loved, and was like, you can do this. You can do both of what you love in one thing. So that's what what 11th grade has to do with how I became.
Okay, so how did you react when you saw what was happening with abortion? I mean, how did that make you feel? You're talking like you're 11th grade, for crying out loud. You're not that old. However, I'm just telling you, if you have an emotional, some type of response to something like that, did you have something like that where you found out what they were doing to these children, or what?
Yeah. So the first time I actually understood what abortion was is from the movie Unplanned with Abby Johnson. That's when I actually understood what it entails. And that from watching that movie, it led into watching even more YouTube videos from Dr. Anthony Levantino, who is a former abortionist. And I watched his testimony, why he became pro-life. It's an amazing testimony, why he stopped doing abortions. Now he works with Live Action, which is a big pro-life nonprofit organization that helps women choose life, and then helps them to get on their feet to be able to support them and their baby. He explains what in detail, what an abortion entails in first, second, and third trimester abortions. So watching those and just trying to educate myself, and then having science classes and realizing that life begins at conception. At conception, everything that scientists consider life, the properties you need to be alive, is at conception. So putting two and two together, and then adding faith on top of it, learning what the Bible says, learning what early church history believed about abortion unanimously. It was that was the final nail in the coffin. So that's kind of how.
I'm assuming that you were brought up in a Christian home. Parents who carted you off to church, whether you were against or for it. You went and it sunk in. Which is important. I'm the Sunday school director for my church, and we had a meeting this afternoon right after church, because the numbers in our Sunday school have dropped way off, and it's just heartbreaking to see the number of children that are in church today as compared to what they were pre-COVID, of course, but even before COVID. Even before COVID was an issue, the numbers have been dropping off. So it does your heart good to see that the churches are out there, are doing their job. by getting the younger people involved in a lot of these causes. Now, you mentioned that you went to the women's right. What is that? The
Women's March, yeah, 2020, October of 2020.
The Women's March.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know. I might get what I'm asking here. But can you compare and contrast the tone of those two marches? And what I'm asking for is, what's the different tone that you got from the vibe you got? There we go. That's a good word. Vibe that you got from those people at those marches.
For some reason, I tended to like attending the Women's March better than the pro-life march, simply for the fact that I was there with where the majority of people disagreed. Therefore, I could start more conversations, because when you're in a crowd with everybody who agrees with you, there's no room for conversation to talk with people. So I liked, like I was saying, we were standing on one of the corners of the Supreme Court with signs, and I was trying to pull people from the crowd, like, can we talk? You see a young female in college, back then just starting her college years, who was very strong, very adamant of her pro-life position. Why don't you come and talk to me? But the responses from the crowd I got, guys, young girls, babies, like toddlers age, and older women, was like the complete opposite. Like, you knew people were demonic because of what they believed, but seeing it close up, face to face, when they're in their majority, it's like, I got a toddler. Their mother was literally teaching them how to stick the middle finger up at us. Literally,
no, really,
how to give us the middle finger.
That tells you the spirit that
Yeah.
these people, the type of spirit that these people have. I don't know if you watched the show a couple of weeks ago, but my family and I, well, my wife, the Queen and I, and my granddaughter, we went to Boston a couple of weeks ago. We took a little mini vacation, and we made the mistake of going to Salem, Massachusetts. The Salem witch trials, little girls accusing others. Hang on, there's witches. Okay, all these things. Okay, so witchcraft in this town is kind of a selling piece to the town. So you have all these shops that are just spells for sale and warlock and wardrobes and all these things. Okay, the day we got there, they had just concluded a gay rights or gay pride parade. Okay, so you had these people, all these freak shows. I don't know how you can go out in public dressed like some of these people did, and the feeling, just that vibe that you get, and that sense, that overboding sense of repressive hatred. Because I would stare. I'm purposeful in my, if I think that you are violating God's law by trying to tell me that I have to take pride and celebrate that which is a clear violation of God's law, I'm just gonna stare at you like you're a freak, because you dress like a freak, for crying out. You're wearing a bra and some. Well, hell, I don't even know what it was, but it wasn't like something that you would wear outside. I mean. And the response that you get, this glare that you would get, it's like a pure hatred for not doing that. And so I can see where you would probably get energized to try to say, hey, look, what are you nuts? You're trying to teach your toddler to shoot the finger at me? Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely interesting. I think when people go to these types of things, especially when the majority is the opposing view, for me, it just likes to seal it. Like, this is exactly why I would never be pro-abortion. Like, it's people like you're just like adding on. Forget like the basis of it just being plain morally wrong and murder. Like, you people, I understand why people are like, yeah, they're absolutely nuts.
Yeah, and to
wait. Are you guys all saying people who want to kill their babies in the womb are violent, vulgar, and just total reprobates? I'm shocked. I figured they'd be the most peaceful people on earth. It's all about love, don't you see? It's all about love.
Well, we appreciate that, Rad. And no, I don't know how these people. I do not know and I'm not trying to say that I'm this pious individual who does not sin, or I'm holier than thou, or anything like that. Anybody that knows me personally knows that's not true. Is that true, Rad? Is that true, Rad? Rad?
Yeah.
It's best that you remain silent. I was just best that you remain silent. Anyway, but to want to do that, have a right, and to fight for a right to do something like that, to the epitome of innocence, I don't know how you get much more evil, if we could use that, if we can, if we're allowed to use that word. I don't know how you get that much more evil when you try to require people to celebrate the debauchery, the sexual perversion that you want to that you want to engage in your rebellion against God. And then you want somebody else to celebrate that. You want somebody else to agree with you. That's okay. Sorry, you can't get me there. And you're right. You don't want to affiliate with people like that, because you're always known by the company that you keep. And that to me is just, I don't know. I couldn't get there. Now, all right. So you saw Unplanned. How long has it been since that movie came out? For crying out loud, that can't be all that long ago. With Unplanned, can somebody Google that and fact check me on that? Has it been that long since that movie? I've seen that movie. I saw it once, and I can't remember when it was. It had to be at least 2 years ago.
2019.
What?
Friday, March 29, 2019.
2019. Okay, so it's been out for 3 years. So it's been about 2 years. And you're right. If you see this movie, folks, and this is what I made a note of this too. Once people witness, you're absolutely right. Once people witness what an abortion does, it changes their mind. Because anybody who can go in there and see what they do to that little child, and you don't come out of there unchanged, there's something wrong with your soul. Anybody, and this is what I don't understand. How can you be against the law requiring somebody to get an ultrasound and view that ultrasound before they get an abortion? I mean, Chloe, would you understand a law like that? What would be the purpose of not wanting that law passed in your eyes?
I think like the majority of the pro-abortion crowd, they don't understand what they're advocating for. Like, I think one of the most important things is, if you're going to decide to advocate for something, you need to know what it entails. I think the Democratic leaders who are very pro-abortion are also very good at manipulating people. Like, I was watching a video earlier, and they were saying, like, you have to, like, they think like lawyers. Like, the Democrats, they choose very certain words to cover the truth. So they would say, like, women's health, instead of like saying what it actually is, or like lying to the public saying, yeah, it's just like, who cares about cells? So they're very good at not telling the truth and not being just straightforward to the point. And I think people they don't see abortion as literally life being taken. They see it as, oh, it's my right, it's my body, my, all of these things. Then the government says I can do it, so I'm gonna do it. that's what they see. They just don't understand what it implies. They just see the word and not the action.
Sure. Yeah. And once you see that, the bloody mess, here's a good analogy. Well, I'm not going to go there. I was going to say something about soldiers and glorifying battle and, saying how honorable it is. But once you go through something like that and you actually see how horrific it is, and just like abortion, seeing how horrific it truly is, you'll never want to have anything to do with it ever again. Okay, so I saw a video, and to touch on what you just said, I saw a video this morning. It was a lady who was confronting a group of demonstrators it was like a defund the police group of demonstrators. I can't remember what it was. Rad's usually pretty up on. Is he here? Yeah. They were confronting. The demonstrators were protesting two I think it was in Minneapolis, to be honest with you. 2 snipers that took out this guy. This guy was in an apartment, and he's shooting his pistol off in his apartment, okay, and endangering people. And so the snipers took this guy out. Well, you have these anti-police, defund the police types protesting outside this lady's house. Now, this lady was inside the apartment, not the same apartment. I think it was the apartment next door. And they
actually, let me step in here. I just saw this on Black Conservative Perspective. So what had happened is this guy was actually stalking the woman and her kids through the wall, okay? And he started shooting at her through the wall, okay? And if you look at the pictures of it, I mean, he's blasting big holes, okay, throughout the wall. Kind of looks like my bathroom. But anyway, so he's shooting up the place. She makes it out, calls 911. The cops did a 6-hour standoff with this guy. And they finally had to take him out because, enough's enough. And she comes back and she can't get into an apartment because of this protest. And they are mocking her. They are threatening her. They're saying, well, you're still alive, right? She's like, I got holes in my wall. I said, but no holes on you. So, yeah, he's dead, though. Yeah, he's dead because he was trying to kill people.
Right. So these people are protesting the fact that the police shot and killed this guy. This guy that was almost shot and killed this lady who was out confronting the crowd. She said, what are you guys doing? This guy was threatening me. I have to live here. He was shooting through the holes through the wall at my children. And the people are like, well, he didn't hit you. You're okay now. But the police, they should. And this is the same type of mentality, Chloe. This is the same type. There's a caboose to this train of thought here. This is the same type of mentality that these people have, that they can defy any type of action, regardless of how heinous it is, under it's our personal freedom, it's our personal choice. You have no right on me. Well, buddy, I do have a right to tell you if you're going to end up killing somebody, and that somebody might be a baby inside of your body or your neighbor lady next door. Before we moved on, I wanted to share this slideshow, and I promised folks I will go through it as fast as I possibly can. But what I want to do is I want to give like an overall history of Roe v. Wade. This is something that I think that we should do. And I didn't want to do it at the beginning of the show because I wanted to get Chloe's take on all of this before we moved on. But what I want to do is I want to go over a short history of Roe v. Wade, what it's done, how it was decided, and what type of impact it has had on our country. So let's go ahead. Okay, there's been 63 million children killed, and this is just in the United States since Roe v. Wade. Somebody put a stat in chat. I don't know if that was Dominic that put it in there.
I put the UK kind of statistic up.
Yeah, there they are. 52 years of abortion in UK, 9 million lives. And, they have a much smaller overall population in the United States. But as a percentage, that's still absolutely horrendous.
It was one baby every 3 minutes, which is like terrible.
Yeah, in our country, it was like 4,000 a day, I think is what it was. And I'm getting to that. Let me go ahead and go through this. Okay, so what was Roe v. Wade? Of course, this was established a woman's right. Now, notice that word right there, right. A constitutional right, a God-given right. That's where we get our rights in the United States. If you guys are unfamiliar with our law, if you go back to the Declaration of Independence, the Declaration of Independence clearly states that we find these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. They're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Of these are life, life, right there in our founding document. It says that we have the right to life. Now, I get it. The Declaration of Independence, you guys might not understand this, but the Declaration of Independence actually carries no legal weight in our judicial system. The only one that the document that does that is the Constitution and the Bill of Rights itself. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get back to this slideshow, just so we know that this is a right to have an abortion without undue restrictive interference. In this decision, it did not legalize abortion at all. That's what a lot of people don't understand. This did not legalize abortion. Abortions were allowed, but what Roe v. Wade did was that it provided an unrestricted right for women to have these, because some states said that you could have them and some states said that you couldn't. And it changed. This decision changed the way that states would regulate abortions. Okay. And it was interpreted to be a right. That's the key thing. A right, a God-given right to kill. Now think about what's the word? Oxymoronic. Is that the word that I'm looking for here? The oxymoronic application of that. I mean, how can you have a right, not just a right, but a God-given right? Now, would God give you the right to kill anything?
God would not give you a right to kill a child.
Not our God, at least.
No. I mean,
in Islam it's allowed, but not
Exactly.
in the Christian God.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. We need to differentiate. Are we talking about the Allah, or are we talking about Jehovah God? There you go. And here's another thing that I thought was kind of cute. There's no female justices on the Supreme Court at the time either. Oh, by the way, because we always talk.
But the thing is, with American law, they shouldn't shouldn't they pass it as an amendment, not through the Supreme Court? Because they wouldn't have got this through as an actual amendment.
Well, if you want to confer a right, and let me just get through this, Dominic. I'm going to show you where they got this idea that this is a right, because it's you're going to say you Americans are idiots. But you won't say it out loud. I get it, because I know you're polite.
I'm just saying, like at least you've got it overturned in the US. We still haven't got it overturned in the UK. I mean, it's still like. Now,
was this in the UK? Was this passed as a law in the UK? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know.
People voted. People in Parliament voted for this, or
because it's crazy. Because you have I think there's one doctor who was kind of noting that on one. Like you've got the maternity ward, you've got babies being born, and on the next floor you've got babies being killed, like due to the fact of abortion. It's crazy. It's so you've got people being killed, but I think I'll have to look up whether it is an actual law in the UK, because I think.
Okay, well, you go ahead and fact check us and bring us up to date on that. Okay, so let's look at the ruling itself. What the ruling itself said that the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court ruled that this lady, Jane Roe, not a real name, who was unmarried at the time, filed a suit against Texas, the Texas ban on abortion. And then you had this Texas doctor who said that, hey, I'm going to support Jane Roe here, even though Jane Roe has subsequently, and this is even a longer story, is changed her mind on that and said that it was wrong. But this doctor said, well, the laws are too vague, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. And he had previously actually been arrested for violating this law. Now, this is akin to that story that we got. Have you guys been, well, I know you guys have been watching the news, but there was the story that Biden had put out there when Biden said, oh, well, this is a travesty. Well, now we have to have some 10-year-old transported out of, was it Indiana to go to Ohio, or Ohio to Indiana, because she was raped. And now she has to have she wanted to have an abortion, but she couldn't have it in her own state. And this is the doctor who made the statement, who had her little snotty little nose on TV for I don't know how many times she said, well, this is the travesty that this had to happen. And I was involved in this or whatever. I can't remember how the whole story went. But the fact is that if you are a doctor and you know that a 10-year-old girl has been raped by an adult and impregnated, you have the responsibility. You are under the legal, you are legally bound to report that.
Legally mandated.
Legally mandated. There you go. Okay. She's legally mandated to report that. The problem is
mandated report, just like you and me.
Nobody reported this rape. So what this is this is a fabrication made up by pro-abortion activists, just like this attorney or this doctor down in Texas, lying, shilling to advance abortion rights or the abortion case. So we even see it. We see it even going on today. Are you familiar with this thing, Chloe? That's happening.
Yeah. So with rape, Planned Parenthood does not report the rapist at all. They just do the abortion. So yeah, they don't do anything to actually help the mother besides get paid the thousands of dollars they do to perform the abortion, and then they send her back off with the rapist. So they don't do anything for. That's why I strongly believe that the rape number for abortion is less than 0.01%, very slim. I strongly believe that it's because Planned Parenthood doesn't do anything to get the rapist be like, this guy needs to be in prison.
Well, the reason why I worked for Crisis Pregnancy Center back in the 80s, helping to put together some grant stuff. And the statistics, which are really strangely humorous in the respect that most rapists have a low sperm count. And you know what I'm talking about, apparently. So I found that fascinating. But on top of that, then you got to take the chance of finding the woman at the right time. There's a whole bunch of factors that go in there. So the amount that's actually related to rape is less than, I believe the statistic back then was, I think it was 1%.
1.5% life of the mother, rape, and incest. 1.5%. Now this is the number that I looked this up. The United States has had an average of 4,000 abortions a day. And let's go ahead and just throw this one out here right now. Let's just go ahead and get into this. I'll tell you the reason why this was overturned. The reason why this Supreme Court had to step in is because one side of this argument was unwilling to compromise. Their position was so solidified in the absolute right of a woman to terminate a pregnancy at any time for any reason that they were not willing to compromise. On the other hand, every time that they would go in and argue for a right for an abortion, they would say, well, what about those women who are raped? They never had a choice to get pregnant. What about those women who had incest committed against them? They had never had a choice. What about those women who have to choose now between their life, the life of the mother, the health of the mother, or the life of the baby? What about them people? And I would be willing, don't be jumping on me now. Okay. I would be willing, if prior to Roe v. Wade being overturned, I would have been willing to say, okay, look, you want to make a compromise here. I would be willing to say, okay, if a woman's life is in jeopardy, if the woman was raped, if the woman had been engaged in incest, where her older brother or whoever, her dad or whatever, raped her, I would be willing to grant those exceptions and allow for an abortion for those if those other choices, where it's just a choice, would not be allowed. And the reason is because if there are 4,000 abortions a day and only 1% of those abortions are for life of the mother, rape, and incest, that means that you have 40 abortions a day occurring to this country, meaning you are saving the lives of 3,960 children a day. I would be willing to do that. I would be willing to, if it meant saving the number of those children, I would be willing to compromise that. But the problem with the pro-abortion crowd is that they were so solidified in this perceived right to have an abortion, to kill a child at any time during a pregnancy. They would not get off of it. And so this is why you had this pro-life movement, this grassroots movement grow, because of that hatred that they had for life itself. Okay, go ahead.
Well, that's kind of the thing. Actually, it was brought up during a abortion hearing in the House. I don't know if you guys seen the video, but a woman, a pro-choice woman, was being questioned by, I forgot the congressman's name. He's a real piece of work. And he said, asked about rape. And she said, okay, fine. What if we allow that exception for rape? Will you ban all their abortions? And he said, oh, that's not the question. And he just quickly moved on. Just totally dismissed it. But here's the thing, and I like Chloe's response on this. Here's my thinking on the whole rape thing. If you go back far enough in time, or maybe not so far enough in time, in all of our genetic histories, we are the progeny somewhere down the line of a rape victim. Okay? You know what I mean? I mean, you just cannot escape this fact of history. Okay? So for those that are saying in cases of rape, we need to abort the child. Okay, so you just then condemned yourself, because that would mean you would not be here to have an abortion to begin with. But I also think, and I think this is key, we went from, remember, legal, safe, and rare, to all of a sudden, anytime, any place, on demand. Okay, just I want it. So in actuality, the ones that are blamed for the overturning Roe v. Wade are the actual pro-abortionists. Because if they wouldn't have gone so far, we pretty much, unfortunately, probably would have been okay and comfortable with it being safe, legal, and rare. But no, they had to just, because that's how it works. You just, once you get a little bit of evil, you keep going until you have the full measure of its poison. Anyway, that's all I want to say.
Chloe, do you have a response to that at all?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think you give them an inch. So let's say you give them rape and incest. They're going to take miles and miles and miles, because I have pro-abortion family members. And so when I interact with them, I know the way they think. If you tell them, okay, I'll give you rape and incest, but the another 99%, that's just out of convenience. I don't want the kid, or other excuses like financial, whatever. They're going to push it to, oh, well, it's my body, my choice. They start coming up with the ridiculous arguments that are not scientifically based. To the point where in Maryland and in California, they're allowing infanticide, literally a newborn baby up until 28 days old. So from my point of view, even with rape and incest and all these other things, does not change the fact on what the Bible says, and it doesn't change the fact that it's a life. I still think, like Eric and like Brad was saying, they're going to go back to, oh no, well, I want it for everything. They use that now because it's an emotional argument, especially when I interact with pro-abortion people. They want to manipulate the pro-lifer's mind, whoever they're talking to, and say, well, what about this, and get into your feelings. And then they're like, yeah, well, now you have to make it available for everybody, even if it's not rape and incest. That's just from my experience. I have my reasons why I would not allow it in even rape. So that's what
I would add something to the rape thing too. If they were going to allow, okay, we're going to allow you, if you've been raped, and this is before Roe v. Wade was overturned, okay, before you guys start jumping on me here. If you were going to allow the abortion to occur during rape, I would say, okay, but it would be a requirement that we execute the rapist, or at a minimum, bobbit him or castrate him. Now, if you don't know what bobbiting means, Rad will tell us. What does it mean to get bobbited, Rad?
It means that you become a eunuch, man, and chop his junk off, man. She's mean.
Throw it in the shredder.
Who remembers that? With that guy's wife, Elena
Bobbitt.
There you go. Hacked it off her husband and chucked it out the window on the way.
Chucked out the window on the way down the road.
Yeah. And they found it. The police and the paramedics went and looked for the dude's thing, man, in the snowstorm. Like, yeah, we're looking for a penis. It's about 3 inches long, and it's kind of a little bloody there, but hey, we found it. I mean, seriously, it's insane.
And that was the days we said Tanya Bobbitt was the most dangerous woman.
I knew you were going to make me pay. I knew I should have just left that one alone.
Anya
Just-
Hardigan bob it. Oh my
yeah,
God, yeah.
that's all at the same time. Golly, Lorena actually did that because she was. Yeah, that's exactly right, Mary was right on target.
Actually-
there. She was raped by her husband. Was brutalizing this poor woman, and she finally let him go to sleep. Here, honey, just go to sleep. It'll be okay.
Actually, I got a
And the
question
only
for
reason why
Chloe.
they were able to save it is because it was winter time and she threw it in a snowbank.
I got a question for Chloe. So you're studying to be a gynecologist. I don't know how far along you are in your studies, but I'm wondering because I'm wondering on miscarriages. Have you done any studies or know of any studies of why miscarriages happen? Because there could be uterine wall kind of thing, something wrong with the with the woman. But I don't know. I've got this thing where I've been just thinking lately that it's because that the fertilized egg, the fetus is just not viable. In other words, the woman's body knows that there's some serious genetic defect going on here, and it has to be gotten rid of. I don't know if that makes any sense what I said, but I'm just wondering if you've come across any of the studies.
Yeah, so miscarriage is just the baby naturally dying, not sticking to the uterine line. I don't know if there's any genetic thing involved. I haven't looked into that.
She's undergrad. She's not going to have that information.
I just know what it is and what it entails. Basically, the embryo not sticking to the uterine lining. But that'll be very interesting to look into.
Okay, if I can say something about that situation right there.
Okay.
The body, when there's a deformity or whatever it is with the sperm and the egg, when the body aborts that baby, rejects it, it's because the body is trying to save itself. That's natural. Versus even incest and rape. Okay, well, why can't you adopt that baby? That baby is innocent. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Eric.
And that there's a lot of truth to that. That is just the natural tendency of the body to reject something that's not going to be viable. But at the same time, to have that surgically removed, making it a choice is I think that's where we would all agree that's just.
I don't think any pro-lifer would be advocating against miscarriage. I just think that's a very common misconception. They would say like, what about miscarriage? Like, dude, you're not going in with a sulfur clamp and pulling out limb by limb and crushing the skull voluntarily. You're not doing that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then when the doctors can tell that this little created being is dead, then they go in there and they do a DNC. They clean you out. That's fine. I mean, if the beginning is dead, if the beginning is dead, then you want to clear out that body. That I agree to. That's fine. On that circumstance too. Let's say that the body doesn't reject it, but then the doctors find out that there's no growth here. This thing is dead. This cell egg, is dead. So then they go in there and they do a DNC. Fine. But what the abortionists are doing, 63 million in America since 1967 versus 9 million in UK. Man, God's truly going to judge us for this.
Who was it posted? Who posted in here that they had 100 days in China? I posted that up there. Who was that? Was that Mary? Who?
It was Nim. I think she posted
100 days in China where he had no baby born. Who did that?
That's kind of hard to believe, but
no
child reported makes sense.
Think of that number there. You got 1.3, 1.2 billion people in China.
I would rather state that is probably underreporting because it's just that statistically that's pretty improbable.
And my question is what if the woman, let's say she was raped, what if the woman kept that child? Where's her story? Where's her story that she loved God and this baby was the blessing of her life? No matter the circumstances, this child is innocent, you see? Where are those stories at?
I know children I've had friends, their mothers were raped and their mothers lovingly raised them.
Hello.
I've had friends that
Where are those stories out in the world? You know, to educate these abortionists. Okay, but to educate the abortionists. That's my point.
You can find them. You can go online. I would say YouTube, but they probably have blocked that now. But no, they're definitely out there. But here's the thing, Chloe.
Yeah,
so
those
your
stories
experience
need to get out. Those stories need to get out, and
your experience, Chloe, at the Women's March stuff. Did you make any impact? I mean, I don't want to say did you make any impact like you failed or anything, but did you notice that maybe one strategy that you could see in these hateful, vile women that just want to kill their babies was making any kind of impact or any kind of difference?
Looks like she's having a conversation with somebody there. Preoccupied.
Yeah, Brad came on. Whatever, mute him.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm gonna just mute everybody because there he is. Yeah. Okay. I think she's back. Tell somebody to get out of your room.
Did you hear Rad? Chloe, did you hear Rad?
I heard a word and then my mom came in.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, no, I was just asking. So in your Women's March thing, when you're trying to dialogue with these demon possessed people, did you notice like any kind of thing that would have one impact over another? Any kind of strategy, just talking to them or anything, or was it just pretty much these people are crazy and they all need to go the way of Sodom and Gomorrah? I mean, you know what I mean?
And thinking we're crazy.
Yeah, I think the one thing that they absolutely hated, specifically about me, they hated my age and they hated that I was a female and pro-life. For my age, they would attack, oh, you don't know anything, you haven't lived, blah, blah, blah. At that time, I was 18. I was 18 years old. So they would use that against me. And then for saying like, oh, you're female, they would say, why are you fighting against your own right? So they didn't even let me get into like the conversation without attacking one of those two things or both at the same time.
How about when you make a stand about how let's stand behind the science? Were you ever able to say that to them?
Yeah, they don't tend to address those issues. They just usually tell me my body, my choice. That's what.
Well, it's not their body. The baby is not their body. It's not their body at all. That's been scientifically proven.
Choice, does it?
You see?
The baby doesn't get any choice absolutely whatsoever at all. It's like,
and them saying it's a right, and then saying it's a right. You know, it's not a right. It was never a right with God. God says, "Thou shalt not murder." So then that's what you give them back to them. You give them back the word of God. It'll plant in there and pray that God gives that increase on that. So see, you just give them back the word of God. You know, in loving kindness, of course. Plant that seed. Thank you.
In order to be consistent with that, it's my body, my choice. If let's say you're a woman and you're pregnant and you're, let's say, a meth head or a crackhead, and your baby is born with deformities or something of those lines, can you be legally charged for child abuse?
It depends on the state that you're in.
You know, that's an interesting thing.
It depends on the state.
Okay, most states, even most pro-abortion states, like in Illinois, it's kind of interesting. If an assailant attacks a pregnant woman, even if she's not showing, but if she is pregnant and the baby dies, okay, they're charged with murder.
Yes.
Which is totally, completely insane. But at the same time, that mother could go and abort that child. It's inconsistency.
Yeah,
exactly.
Inconsistent.
Completely insane. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually used that when I was talking to late last year, probably in November sometime. I was on a live stream and one of my friends that I graduated high school with, he came up. He's studying to be a surgeon. So I'm going to be an OBGYN and he's going to be a surgeon. And I used that. I was like, don't you think it's kind of hypocritical for it to be considered if a pregnant woman is murdered or a homicide happens, it's going to be considered a double homicide. They count the baby as a life. But if I, as a woman, decide by my own free will to go in and murder my baby, all of a sudden it's just, the life doesn't matter because I chose to do it. So is it the mother that determines if it has like value or not? Or he was like, honestly, that's a good question. And I agree. It's very hypocritical. So
Exactly.
Well, here's something interesting. I think we need to change it from pro-life. We are truly pro-choice. We just believe that the mother should deliver a live baby and not a dead baby. Because no matter what, you're delivering a baby. I'm sorry, especially with late-term abortions, you're delivering a baby. You just choose if it's going to be alive or dead, and that, you know what I mean? It's just totally insane.
Yeah, and we actually present more choices to the mother. Abstinence, if she's already pregnant, then adoption, motherhood. There's hundreds of nonprofit pro-life organizations that literally help the mother through it. And then, that's why I don't call the so-called pro-choice crowd pro-choice. I call them pro-abortion, because that's exactly what you're advocating for.
I call them pro-death.
Yeah.
Pro-death, pro-abortion. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's a lot of, you were talking about how they word things and how they play these word games. If you're going to say that you're pro-life, well, you're pro-abortion then, or you're pro, like Paul said, that you would be pro-death. And this is how the left does these things. Oh, it's not pro-death, pro-abortion. We're just pro-choice. Pro-choice.
Yeah,
to
Marxism. Yeah, change the word, change the wording, make it sound like it's okay when it's not. And you get that in Islam too. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sitting there. Mary posted an article in the chat there. If you all want to go click on that, we're gonna bring that up. But here you have in China, in a section of China, where they had 100 days where they didn't allow, evidently they did not allow children to be born. They were aborted, and if they were born, then they were what did she say? They were thrown into, what is this? Hold on. Let's see. To the west of the country hospital was a garbage dump with 2 wells, several meters deep, practically overflowing because so many bodies were thrown in there every day. This is akin to what you would see in the Holocaust, for crying out loud. The Holocaust, we sit there and we decry how awful that was. Here's a statistic that you guys might not be aware of: 9 out of every 10 Jewish children in Europe died during the Holocaust. 9, that's 90%. Because when you look at selection, who were selected out immediately? It was the children. So 9 out of 10 children were killed during the Holocaust. Okay, let's get back to this slideshow. Let's see. In a country of hundreds of thousands. Yeah. Get back to this slideshow and look at the roots of this evil decision. Roe v. Wade. Okay, so you have this ruling was, think about it. Look at this, folks. This ruling was based on 2 of the Constitution amendments. The first one was the 4th Amendment, which gives you a right against search and seizure without cause. You have to have a reason to search your home, search your person, search your effects. So you do have a right to privacy, but it's just a search. It isn't where you have the right to cut something out of your body, for Pete's sake. And then the other one was the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was part of the Reconstruction Amendments. If you guys know anything about Civil War history, 13th Amendment abolished slavery, 14th Amendment granted citizenship to their newly freed slaves, and the 15th Amendment, in the 14th Amendment, since they get citizenship, then they are therefore entitled to due process under the law. Whereas in the 15th Amendment granted them, the newly freed slave men, by the way, the right to vote. But it says, but they also said in the ruling that it wasn't an absolute right, and the government did have a right to regulate it. But when we look at the 14th Amendment, this is what's critical about this. Look at what the 14th Amendment does, folks. The 14th Amendment grants citizenship to all these newly freed slaves. Why? Because they were being denied their due process rights and privileges in our country because they weren't citizens. They were slaves before. Now they're free. So nobody knows their exact status. So the Congress writes this amendment, sends it down to the states, and the states ratify this amendment. And by the way, those states that had seceded from the Union, in order to be readmitted to the Union, they had to put in their constitution that slavery would be abolished also. And they would recognize the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. It also provided equal protection under the law. Why? Because the United States citizen is guaranteed certain unalienable rights. And those rights include the rights under the 5th Amendment, which is your due process against self-incrimination, habeas corpus, Sixth Amendment, trial by jury, all these things. They are entitled to those rights. That's what the 14th Amendment did. It gave the newly freed slaves, the intent of it was to grant the newly freed slaves, African Americans in our country, the same type of constitutional privileges that the white people had. That's the purpose of it. But the Supreme Court took this sucker and turned it on its head. It also, this is what I also love about it, it banned all those Confederates that served in governments, Confederate governments, from ever serving in national office again. It says, look, you're a rebel, you rebelled against our country, you use that position to rebel against your country, you are never, ever, 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 never, ever, 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 you see that right there in the 14th Amendment, ever serving in a public office again. And it ensured that they would be treated fairly under the law. But fortunately, our country had Plessy versus Ferguson, which is also decided by the Supreme Court. Anytime you start arguing that the Supreme Court is the know-all, be-all, get-all, run Plessy versus Ferguson by them. We're saying that separate but equal was okay. They could be separate, but they just have to be equal. That means we could have separate schools, but they just have to be equal. You can have separate toilets, they just have to be equal. Separate hospitals, but they just have, go ahead and see how that works out for you. And then also mention Dred Scott versus Sanford and see if the Supreme Court is always correct on their rulings. And we ended up turning that sucker over too with Long Plessy versus Ferguson. 14th Amendment has nothing to do with reproductive rights. Oh, by the way, just saying. Now, here is what I am absolutely amazed about. Look at this word here. Does anybody know what this word means? Penumbra?
Yes, I heard that on Ben Shapiro's show. It means something, but I forgot. It's a legal term.
Very good.
It's a bad legal term.
Exactly. Yes. It's not a legal term, Rad. But you're absolutely right. But that's how they turned it into a legal term. So you're right about that. They said that the Roe v. versus Wade was decided based on the penumbra of the 14th Amendment. Now, we had a total eclipse a couple years ago. Do you guys remember this total eclipse here in the United States?
I was there, man. I rode out to Southern Illinois and I saw the whole thing in action. I'm telling you, if you ever get a chance to see one, I don't care where you got to go. It is the most beautiful, spectacular thing you will ever see. And pictures and video does not do it justice. I mean, you've got to experience it, man.
Well, when the sun is blocked out, like that, the crickets come out. I'm serious. As soon as the
crickets come on, car alarms go off. It gets 40 degrees cooler. Yeah. It gets 40 degrees cooler.
But the penumbra, let's go back to this penumbra thing. But you're right. That the crickets started chirping just as soon as the sun was covered. The penumbra is the radiance of the sun that comes out on the sides of the moon when the moon is covering the sun during an eclipse. That is the penumbra. So the court, this is. I've been reading what they've said about this. They said, well, the 14th Amendment doesn't necessarily say a woman has the right to an abortion, but when we look at the penumbra of the amendment itself, which citizenship rights to the newly freed slaves, so they wouldn't be prosecuted without due process under the law. The penumbra says that a woman can call a little fetus out of their body if they want to, and they have a constitutional right to do that. That is your Supreme Court. So when Alito writes this decision here recently, he says these guys are full of crap. Are you kidding me? How can you extricate a civil right out of the penumbra of the 14th Amendment, for crying out loud? There is nothing explicit in how that, and this was the whole argument. There's nothing in that case in ruling that clearly specifies a right of a woman to do this. And this is why it was overturned. Finally, we got 5 Supreme Court justices sitting on the court saying, that's stupid. And it is, because it was stupid. And it was a stupid decision made by a bunch of old men, a bunch of white, well, I think, what was that? Marshall, Thurgood Marshall was on the court at the time. So I was going to say a bunch of old white guys, but I think Marshall was on the court at the time. But it's just conundrum. Oh, I missed his word. Penumbra. what's the word? And the only reason why I know that is because when because I'm not a wizard or smart, I'm not trying to come off as one. The only reason I knew that is because I was teaching science that year, and that was a vocabulary term that we had to teach the students. It's the penumbra of the eclipse. You'll see that. Anyway, okay, let's get back to. I'm sorry, Connie, I didn't let you back in. I didn't see that. Let's get back to this so we can finish this Hamajama up. I'm almost done. I promise you. I'm not going to bore you to death today. Okay, so when we look at Roe v. Wade, who did it? Let me just throw this out there for the panel. Who did abortions most affect in our country? Does anybody have an opinion on that?
The unborn.
The African American community.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So
yeah, the African. Yeah, that's who that lady started. She wanted to kill all the black babies, whatever her name was.
Margaret Sanger.
Yes, Margaret Sanger. Yeah, that's her doctrine.
Chloe, did you ever bring up? Yeah.
Go ahead and tell us about Margaret Sanger.
Did you ever bring up Margaret Sanger? Did you ever bring up Margaret Sanger at the women's marches? Or yeah, you got to know this. Yeah, seriously, go ahead.
Not at the women's march, but in conversations I've had, especially with the African American community, knowing her history, like she was a well-known racist, and she founded the #1 abortion provider being Planned Parenthood. So these people support her, and yet your people wonder why the Black community is like only 13% of the population, 14%, and they wonder why, because they target that community. So very interesting to bring up Margaret Sanger. Yeah, she was a disgusting individual.
So when you say that the greatest percentage, or the people that were most affected by abortions in our country were the minority populations in our country, and it was the lady who founded Planned Parenthood, who was the #1 provider of these abortions to reduce the population in these minority communities, was a devout racist. It's kind of a heart of a that's kind of like a bouncing ball. You have to follow a couple things, and these guys that support abortion, they obviously have a hard time. They killed both with neglect. Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you for bringing that up, Mary. But this woman, we call her that, Sanger, is the one that founded an organization that ended up being the #1 provider for abortions, and abortions most as a percentage affected, especially the African American community in our country. The number coming out of New York City was that 1 out of every 3. I'm willing to be wrong on this, but the last statistic I saw, that 1 out of 3 live pregnancies of African American babies was terminated in an abortion. That's 1/3. You're killing 1/3 of your population because you think it's a right to do so.
Yeah, that's why Democrats are so on the illegal aliens, because they've realized that they've killed their base. They killed their Democratic base. They have a zero population growth. So in other words, looking forward in the future, they realize their voting population base is rapidly shrinking on them. So they are deliberately importing illegal aliens to hope in replacing them in 5-10 years. Okay, I'm not making it up. This is their plan. This is actually their strategic plan that they thought out.
Right.
Well, it's not that I'm right. It's just that everybody else is always wrong. But no, seriously. No, that's what they're doing. So I don't know. There's just so many avenues attacked to this. I honestly believe, because I've been out there at the abortion clinic a few times by my house. And I got to tell you, it's pretty much like walled off. It's like a fortress. And they just kind of come in, zip in, zip out. But what I find amazing about this abortion clinic, talking to the people that are there all the time, is that there are no abortion doctors, quote unquote, in Illinois. They have to fly them in from Indiana and another state, I think. And they're only there Wednesday and Saturday. It's abortion day. It's like the ovens are going. It's like, no, seriously, like people are literally going in to exterminate themselves. And I saw something. I'm like, dude, this dude looked like a pimp. He was driving a pimp car. I mean, the car was all pimped out. It was like something out of the 70s. And he drove in there, he dropped the woman off, drove off, and then like an hour and a half later came back and picked her up and drove off. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I just did not see this. You know what I mean? But no. So, well, this is what I want to bring up, Chloe. I have heard that, okay, that the same people, the argument that, okay, oh my God, women are going to die in backroom abortions, coat hanger abortions, blah, 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 blah. This is not true, because the same people that were doing abortions when it was illegal in some states are the same people doing abortions now. And that's where these crackpot doctors, you would go after hours and you pay them an extra couple $100 and you get it done. You know what I mean? So I don't know, have you encountered any of that? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, they usually bring it back, Ellie, abortions to kind of say like, oh, now it's like not safe or whatever. So women are going to be forced to do something unsafe to themselves. And then you're like, but was it ever safe when it was legalized under Roe versus Wade? Like, go ahead.
Right, they're actually arguing. No, they're actually arguing, like these politicians up on Twitter and these YouTubers. These black women are actually arguing that abortion is safer for women of color or POC people or whatever they're calling themselves these days. Okay, that it's actually better for them to have, or safer for them to have abortion than to have a child. And I'm sorry, I'm like, are you seriously racist? I actually got a meme of the Ku Klux Klan raising his hand and saying, I have a question, Joe Biden. How do we prevent black babies from being born? And Joe Biden answers, just tell them it's women's health care. It's like, I mean, you can't, I'm sorry, you can't be this stupid. And they look at us and they say, we're racist because we don't want black mothers to kill their black babies. You know what I mean? It's like what kind of insanity is this? Anyway, sorry to rant.
Well, there's
the thing is,
there's a long story that goes along with that. Go ahead, Dominic.
But the thing is, if the actual because if you just say okay in the third person, because they're alive, they're not actually aborted. If they were in the shoes of say if their personal mum and dad decided to abort them, they would be standing here right now. If you're kind of stating okay in the actual third person, okay, let's state that for I've lost my train of thought, but if say one of them, if you aborted all the Democratic leaders in the US, yeah, if you simply advocated that they shouldn't exist. Because it's almost like the right, almost like the right to exist. I mean, you have to be God. God is the only person that chooses whether you exist or not.
I think we could all agree with the ultimate judge of who gets to decide and who doesn't. I was going to point out that Mary went in and fact checked me, and I appreciate that. I was wrong. It isn't 1/3 of the abortions, or 1/3 of the pregnancies ended up in an abortion in New York City. It was 50%. So I was a little low.
My goodness.
So that's one out of every other child was aborted. And it was actually over that. I went in and I pulled up the article. The article says that, and this is 2013. Let's see, according to 13, counted 29,000 terminated pregnancies, representing almost 42% of all abortions in the city. But they had 24,000 live births that year. So you had 24,000 live births, 29,000 abortions.
And how many of those live births were black? What's the percentage of that?
That's what they were saying, that the African American children born in the city that year, 24,000 and some change were live births, while there was 29,000.
And those are only black babies. You said.
Yeah, those are only black babies. Yeah, and then I would also there's another statistic.
Negative population growth. In other words, they've been at 13% of the U.S. population for the past 2 decades. They are not increasing. Okay, they are dying.
You sound like you're in the Matrix, Brad.
Oh, sorry.
Is that just me, or is he breaking
He
up?
sounds like he's in a fishbowl.
Okay.
Or in the Matrix.
It wasn't you, Eric.
Okay, all right. Now in Russia, the Soviet Union, there's a bunch of commies over in Russia. The average
There's
woman,
commies in America, so be specific. The left are all commies.
Commie.
So,
There we go. That's as specific as you get.
Transformational Marxist communisms.
All right, look, we when I was in the army, we called them a bunch of red commies. We called them Chinese
when I was a teenager, we
and
said the only good commie was a dead commie.
exactly. Okay, these commies in Russia their society had so devolved that the average woman had, I think it was 6 abortions during her life. That's the average woman in the Soviet Union had 6 abortions. That is how soulless a country becomes when you do not protect and cherish the lives of the unborn. And excuse me, what is great about this ruling is now finally we have a court system stepping up saying, look, women don't have a right to do this. This was decided incorrectly. Now what we're going to do is we're going to allow the states to decide where it should be, because we have this thing in the Constitution. It's called federalism, where federalism, where the power is shared between the states and the federal government. And the states have certain powers and the federal government has certain powers. And the 9th and 10th Amendment, oh, by the way, clearly state that unless a power is clearly designated in the Constitution, that power belongs to the state. And when you talk about whether or not abortion should be legal, should be allowed, that is something that the state should decide. Now, if you have and here's the key, and Chloe, you tell me if you've gotten this argument before. Well, shouldn't that mean that slavery should be allowed in the state? If the state decides to have slavery, that makes it okay? Have you heard that argument before?
Yeah.
The funny thing is that we go back to life, liberty, the word liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
And you can go back to what we call the 13th Amendment, oh, by the way, which abolished slavery. Anyway. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. You nincompoop. That's what you wanted to say.
I was going to say
nincompoop.
No.
Oh,
see,
wow.
You guys,
okay.
You guys
I was nicer.
You guys should be thankful that
Sometimes I wish you would just say it. Just say it, Eric.
I tried to exercise a great deal of restraint here because my family.
What?
My family watches these shows. I don't want to say those kinds of words in front of my family. Did I tell you? You guys remember that story I told you where I said that our friend whose book is under the sleeping pig here, in that book, he says that some guy said that he was going to hell, and he got all upset about it because they were at a fundraiser for him, and he said I was going to hell. Well, if you die without Christ, you are. But he should. I said the guy was this is a R-rated word. So if you don't like hearing R-rated words, go ahead and mute or turn me down. Shut your speakers off. I said this guy was an asshole. The guy was an asshole for saying that in a church about you, and he shouldn't have did that. But at the same time, your Bible, your Quran says that I am going to hell. So does that make Allah an asshole too, or Muhammad an asshole too? I mean, if you think about it, you want an equitable application here, and that's why Kenny got all upset. He said, "Listen to this Christian say the word asshole on his show, and listen to say it all, so many times." So when we talk about why do I exercise restraint, because
Kenny cries. So what? Kenny cries. So what? Kenny, go sit in the corner and shut up. That's a woman telling you that. The Lord rebukes you, Satan and Kenny Boomer.
Amen.
And so we're talking about the pro-life movement.
And if you don't know him, Chloe, he's an imam out of Houston who.
I've heard of him.
The pro-life movement. Islam allows abortion because they have to blow life into the baby later on, and during the middle of embryology, the baby isn't born.
120 days, 4 months, 120 days.
4 months. Yeah, 4 months before the Muslim imaginary angel Allah blows life into it. Okay, so something grew but had no life in it. All right, that's the logic and the science of Allah.
Yeah, see, Islam wants us.
Just posted in chat there. Kenny needs
Yeah,
to respond.
yeah. Islam wants us silence in the midst of unrighteousness, and that's what Dean Gocher talks about in his seminars. Is you go to college and you do the grade, you give them back their lies, and the only thing that it taught us is to be silence in the midst of unrighteousness. So that's why I always tell you, Eric, just say it.
Well,
Because see, the opposition wants us to shut our mouths. God gave us a mouth. Now we are supposed to speak truth and love, and if they don't like it, then they don't like it.
All right, I'm going to say it. The nincompoops that tell you these things are exactly that. They're a bunch of idiots. Okay. Whoops. I'm sorry, Tim. I didn't mean to remove you. There you go. Okay. So let's get back to this. We got only a half hour left, for crying out loud. If I was Paul, we would have an hour and 32 minutes left, but I'm not Paul. Okay. And by the way, folks, I was thinking about what you were saying here. We have Margaret Sanger. We already talked about Margaret Sanger. Taxpayers. And I hate to break this down to a debased type of argument here. But when we think of what abortion has done economically to our country, when Social Security was first implemented or written into law in our country, it was based on a certain number of people would live in our country, while at the same time that we would have a percentage of the population that would be going into retirement age and would be able to have some form of retirement. But our unfunded liabilities, right? Hold on, let me give you this number here. You're going to love this one, because I have this app on my phone. It's actually not an app. I keep it on one of my on my Google Chrome here, and it's called the National Debt Clock. Have you guys ever seen this before? Let me see if I can put this up here. Can you see that? It's the National Debt Clock, and it tells you what our national debt is. It says our national debt right now is $30,587,200,000. It's too high. Okay, it's just going up too fast to count. Okay, down here it says unfunded liabilities. Are you ready for this number? Are you ready, Chloe? I hope you make a lot of money, because you got to pay this money back for us. It's $170 trillion unfunded liabilities. Social Security unfunded liabilities, $22 trillion. So when I go back to this idea of taxpayers, we have taken what was a great social welfare program, if there ever was one, Social Security, we've bankrupted, and through abortion, what we've done is we've taken out 69 million of those people who would have been paying taxes. And it's not just 69 million, because this has been going on for, was it 50 years now? Roe v. Wade went into effect 74. Is that 50 years?
49.
How many?
49 and a half years.
49. Okay, so you have an entire generation of people who would even have grown up and had children also that are not there paying taxes. So you have the people who were killed, and also those people who would have grown up, if they had not been killed, would have had more children, would pay taxes. So that number could go as high as 100 million people in our country would able to fund our social welfare programs that we have. And we have done that out of personal greed and personal debasement and getting away from God's word. So that was just kind of an economic impact of Roe v. Wade.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Abortion on demand is so wrong, okay, on every level. Clearly, there's the spiritual level. Clearly, there is the moral level. But as a nation, okay, at a national level or on a worldwide level, it is wrong, because you are killing your future, okay? Yeah. Let's think about right now, even in the time of extremely low unemployment rates, we have a workers shortage in every industry, okay? Doesn't matter what it is, it's an extreme, okay, workers shortage, okay? Now think about this. If these, how many was it, Chloe, 65 million, I think, aborted babies in the 40-something years of Roe v. Wade, okay? Think Think about that. That's at least 30 million American workers that would have been in the workforce right now, that would have totally taken care of this worker shortage, that would have been productive, that would have been, not all, obviously, but producing. I mean, think of all the scientists we lost. Think of all the geniuses that could have come out. Think of all this stuff that we could be enjoying right now, but because of abortion, because of our that we, for some reason, we got this selfish society that it's all about me, and the now. Okay, we have lost and we have missed out. Not only that, but you have another fundamental thing going on here: taxpayers. We miss out on the taxpayer base. Okay, on the economic base. I mean, on every level, this thing is wrong. And I cannot understand anyone, any politician, any economist. Well, no, actually, let me throw this back at you. All the people, that want this family leave for both the mother and the father for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, is it that paid family leave, or a vast majority of their salary paid family leave? Is it any wonder that companies are willing to fly their pregnant employees out to have an abortion? You know what I mean? It's cheaper to do that. Because guess what?
Leave.
What's that? Yeah. Because guess what?
Maternity leave.
Yeah, because guess what? A worker on maternity leave is not a productive worker. That's not what burden that you have to pay their salary on. So it's cheaper to have an abortion. Is it any wonder why actual insurance companies want to actually pay for abortions? They actually want that. You know why? Because guess what? If you look at the life of a child, okay, all right, you got to pay for the pregnancy, you got to pay for the birth, and then the child goes on the insurance. Well, that's not a productive child. That child is not working and adding to the dividend of the insurance company. So guess what? Well, it's just cheaper to have an abortion. So these whole things intermesh together, and it's self-destructive. It really is. It's like we are seriously looking at this and saying, I want to destroy my society, my world, my world, because you know what? I want to have sex without consequences with any woman or a woman with any man that I so choose to at any time, any place. It is insane, moral, economic, policy decision that has consequences that we are now just beginning to reap. Okay? And one more thing, I'll throw this in one more thing. Do you know New York State lost 3 congressional districts? They lost 3 seats in Congress. Those seats were determined. No, but that was determined because they lost 40,000 voters in these districts. The abortions of 1 year would have covered that. If they would not have aborted 40,000 people in the state of New York, I think it was a couple of years or whatever it was, in the state of New York, they could have kept their district seats. Do you see how insane this is? I mean, this is completely. I look at this and I think, you people, this is demonic. This is spiritual. This is honestly God's wrath being poured out on us, and we are just getting a glimpse of it now. Just wait in the coming decades. And I'm actually, I hate to say this, Chloe, I'm glad I'm in my 50s and not in good health, because I ain't going to be much longer to witness what you're going to go through. But God help you, is all I'm saying. I mean, seriously, the younger generation, I really feel sorry for you guys. I really do. And I apologize as an adult for not guarding you guys better. But yeah, it's a horrible thing what's going to happen. Anyway, sorry to depress y'all.
What did you post in chat there, Chloe? What is that?
Yeah, so that is from heartbeatinternational.org. It gives statistics on how women are affected by abortion, why abortion is the unchoice, and just things like this. Something that I like to share whenever I talk about abortion, kind of just to open people's eyes about
what do you mean how women are affected? What do you mean by how they're affected?
Yeah, so if you want, we could read some. Let me see. So, for example, get this Wi-Fi going. It gives why abortion is the unchoice. 64% of women reported feeling pressure to abort, Most felt rushed or uncertain, yet 67% were not counseled. 79% were not told of available resources. 84% were not sufficiently informed for an abortion. Why abortion is uninformed, non-choice. 54% were unsure of the decision, yet 67 received no counseling beforehand. In 84% were inadequately counseled beforehand. Why abortion is the unsafe choice. Nearly 80% of abortions take place in non-hospital facilities, ill-equipped for emergency care. 31% had health complications afterwards. 65 suffered multiple of PTSD.
How many? What percentage had health complications afterwards?
31% had health complications afterwards. 31.
That's almost a third.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it keeps getting worse. 65% higher risk of clinical depression. 10% have immediate complications, some life-threatening. 3.5 times higher risk of death from all causes, and suicide rates are 6 times higher if a woman aborts versus giving birth.
Does it provide, I read this somewhere, the occurrence of breast cancer is exponentially higher for women who have had abortions. And the reason why is that your body goes through these changes in preparation to have a child. And,
hormones, yep, everything.
Different. And that the accumulation of that causes an increase in rates of breast cancer. I heard that at one time. And these statistics that you are citing, I am sure are not shared with women at the abortion clinics.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Nope.
And this would be something that akin to saying, hey, let's have an ultrasound before we abort your baby.
Yeah.
And they were trying to put that into law, and they were saying that was unconstitutional. How can that be unconstitutional? How could that be? I mean, how can you strike that down? They said it was unconstitutional because it was an undue requirement or an undue something.
When I worked for the Crisis Pregnancy Center in the 80s, that's what we were doing. We were paying for an ultrasound.
But they can say that abortion is constitutional when it's not.
It was unconstitutional to require a woman
I know.
to have an ultrasound.
Yeah, I know. But then turning it back on them. But killing your baby is constitutionally,
it is.
Which it's not.
It's right there in the penumbra of the 14th Amendment, Connie, and don't you question it because it's the Supreme Court. These are smart men, bunch of white guys.
Well, I'll kick their butt.
Well, except for
I'll kick their butt.
Well, you probably would.
Yes.
I've learned not to get on your
I was raised very much. Yes. I was very, very well raised.
Okay. To the NSA, CIA, and FBI who are listening, the Crossing the Crescent does not promote or encourage or provide anything to insult or assault, cause physical harm to any Supreme Court justice. I just have to give this a disclaimer out
But just to kick their butt. But just to kick their butt.
Again.
Yeah, no. Touchy-feely. You know, a long time ago, you know, what was it in the, way back when? We used to kick butts, you know, as in Christ.
That was before woke America. Actually, I do want to bring up one thing. Okay, listen, when I finally do get off my butt and run for Congress, and I want your opinion on this, Chloe, here is my position on everything. Give Democrats everything they want, but only for Democrats. In other words, if you want to have an abortion, you got to be a registered member of the Democrat Party. I want common sense abortion laws. Here's what they are. First of all, you have to be a card-carrying member of the Democratic Party. Okay. Second of all, we will provide only one abortion per family per year. Not only that, but we will have a waiting period of at least 9 months before you can have an abortion. Okay? But no, seriously. But no, in all seriousness, I want to give Democrats what they want. If they want to abort their children, if they want to then sterilize the survivors by transing them, then you have to be a member of the Democratic Party. Because I figure this, in 2 generations, we won't have Democrats to worry about anymore. Because they either all kill themselves off or sterilize their ancestors. Either way, they're done. And that's my policy. Okay, if I ever run for Congress.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, because if they're not reproducing, you know, then they go extinct. Thank you, Rad.
Well, it's like Democrats going to Republican states. They're like locusts. You know, they go in there, they ruin their state, and then they come down to your state and they want to devour all the wealth and everything that's done. What happened here? Would you get back up here? Okay, so here are the stats that Chloe was citing, and this is suicide rates. Look at that, 6 times. If you have any type of behavior that results in suicide rates 6 times higher, you would think that people would be screaming at the top of their lungs to.
But wait. If we don't trans the kids have a 5-time rate higher suicide rate. So what? Wait, are you serious? They want to sterilize children because maybe 1 in 5 will try to commit suicide in their lifetime. But they also want women to abort their children, and it's 6 times higher. That right? Oh my! No. Oh, I'm angry. I'm sorry. I'm just really.
Yeah. Okay. 3.5 risks from all causes. 65% higher risk clinical depression. Multiple symptoms of post-traumatic. Look at that! Oh my God, that's not funny, but that's crazy.
And that's usually about 9 months after you would deliver your baby. You go into that. A lot of women go into that because the body is like, thinking, I need to deliver this baby now, but there's no baby. So they get into, they weep. They weep over their babies. Yes.
That's what they call it.
Yeah, look at Tim. I don't know if you guys have gone into private chat there, but Tim Lutz posted, ironic that AOC gets one heckler and melts down, loses her little mind. Have you guys saw that? Did you guys see that video where she lost her mind? The guy accosts her, a reporter of some type, tells her she has a nice Latina butt. I know, it's completely inappropriate, but she loses her little flipping mind and then starts complaining to the Capitol Police or something. You're the reason why they came in. They were able to storm the Capitol. Just shut up, you little snowflake. Go away.
Actually, if you look at the video, even though she's wearing a mask, and he says to her, "Oh, this is my favorite big booty Latina. Hey, you want to kill babies." Yeah. Anyway, but if you notice her facial expression with the mask, she's smiling. In other words, she actually liked being called the big butt booty Latina. Seriously, she's smiling when she approaches him. You know what I mean? Then she's like, "Oh, I better come out and say how wrong this was." Oh, blah blah blah, whatever.
I don't know. I think that's a little over the top. I mean, I would feel uncomfortable if somebody said, "Hey, look at Eric. Here comes that big booty butt Latin." They would. Well, I don't want to be called a Latin. Anyway, I don't want anybody commenting on my booty when I'm walking into the Capitol. All right. So I could see where she'd have a case against that, but. Yeah, and she loses her little flipping mind. If you don't want like being criticized, and go back to New York City and
go in a corner and cry.
Yeah, get back in your corner in 10 bar.
Yeah,
and bring what's a good drink?
The Bloody Mary, of course.
Bloody Mary. Oh yeah, Bloody Mary.
The Bloody Mary. Come on, Eric. Yeah.
Yeah. How could I forget that? The
There
Bloody
you
Mary.
go.
Okay, let's see. I think, I've run out of slideshow. I had one more thing on the slideshow to add, but we had addressed that during the course of the conversation where we were talking about, compromising on this. But it's such a relief not having to do that. Now, Chloe, I'm going to put you on the spot here since you decided to come. And actually, I told Chloe to come last Tuesday. And she said, "No, you didn't." And I think we were on Clubhouse or something. She said, "No, you didn't. You said the 17th." And I said, "The Tuesday is the 17th." And she goes, "No, check your calendar, dude." I'm like, "Oh, you're right. All right. So it is the 17th." So we had to stick with today. Okay. I was going to ask you, okay, so what does the pro-life movement do now? What is on the horizon for the pro-life movement? They've tackled the giant, the Goliath of Roe v. Wade. What do we do now?
Yep. Make sure it stays overturned because there's some pro-aborts. I know Joe Biden's probably going to try to pack the court. Make sure it stays overturned. Continue.
Say that last thing again. You said, what about packing the courts? What was that?
Joe Biden probably wants to pack the court to bring Roe versus Wade back. I've heard they're trying that. They're gonna try.
He
that.
has mentioned it. So
Well, what about the executive order that he signed? Like what, a week and a half ago or a week ago? What was that all about, Eric?
I don't know what.
Yes, he signed
I feel like Joe
something.
Biden. I feel like Joe Biden right now.
He
Like,
signed an
I don't know.
executive order.
I don't remember. I don't remember.
I'm sure he doesn't remember either. I bet he doesn't even know what his name looks like anymore.
Chloe, you have to forgive Eric. He is old, so he does suffer from some form of Joe Bidenism going on there. But no, just to answer you guys on the Joe Biden executive order, I read it. It does absolutely nothing. It spends money, is what it does. It calls for committees and studies and blah blah blah, but it absolutely does nothing because he has limited power on this. But yeah, it's seriously just a pander to his base to say, see, I've done something, and even the base aren't buying it because it does literally absolutely nothing except spend money. Okay, which is what they're good at. But Chloe, I want to ask you: have you ever heard of Life on Campus or something like that? The group. I'll get the actual link to their YouTube page if you haven't. And I would highly recommend you invite them out to your campus because they've got great resources and they just got some great material, okay, on how to combat this thing, especially on campus. Their main thing is you focus on the woman, not what the fetus is in the child. And I want to bring this up, okay, because, when we're arguing with the pro-murderers, okay, in the streets, we can bring all this stuff up. But when you're talking to a woman, a young woman, whatever, okay, who's making this horrible decision because she's all alone, she has no resources. Everyone in her family, everyone, all her support group is saying, have this abortion, okay? And to her, it's just a problem that needs to go away because she's not thinking about that. Even though she knows it's a life, even though she can feel it moving around, even though she can feel it growing inside her, it's just still a problem. You can compartmentalize things. And you say, just get rid of it, and I'll make up for it later. I'll do good deeds or whatever, okay, and make it up. But the thing is, and this is a weakness on the pro-life movement, we need to provide resources for that mother, okay, and show her that yes, there are other alternatives. You know what I mean?
That was actually a point of prayer in our church when this came out. Is that look, okay, so now we finally got this awful, god-awful court decision overturned, thrown out, and this is going to severely limit, cut down the number of abortions performed in our country daily. What that number is I don't know, but let's just hope that it's significant. But that means that we as Christians need to step up and assist these. And let's face it, the majority of them are young girls that have gotten themselves into a corner. And also, oh, by the way, because I noticed in the chat, I think it was Nim that posted it, said that girls need to learn how to close their legs. And I get it. I agree with that. But more importantly, it takes two to tango. And she did put that out there. It takes two to tango.
Yes.
And we need to quit encouraging our young sons, our young boys, from thinking the way that they do. Our culture today is so over-sexualized, and this type of thought is paraded out in pop culture, in music, in the movies, and so on and so forth, where we need to train up a whole new generation of young men in this country to let them know that they need to have more respect for not only women, girls, but also more respect for the institution of marriage and to follow God's laws when it comes to that. And if because kids are going to be kids, young people are going to be young people, and they're going to be a big percentage that make these mistakes. We need to provide them a way to raise that child, a way to bring that child into the world and give that child a loving home and a family. Adopt something that's not allowed because of some perverted profit. Oh, by the way, adopt that child into families.
And the parents. I mean, because
Well, this is what I'm saying.
I told my son when he was 14, I said, son, if you do this deed, most likely you're not going to have a say-so with that baby. It's going to be on those parents. And most likely those parents are not going to want that child and they'll abort. And that's what happened to his first in-womb baby. Yeah. And it happened.
That's good. I just...
Yeah, so educate the parents as well.
My son just had our little granddaughter was born in April, and I just cannot imagine. I don't know. I just cannot imagine anything happening to that child prior to or even after the abortion, because you have, as a grandparent, it's different. I get it. As a parent, you have that bond, a natural bond, but a grandparent, you can spoil them rotten and feel good about yourself.
And teach them the gospel.
Yeah, right. Well, this is why I make a trip Sunday morning over to my kids' houses and pick up my grandchildren and cart them off to Sunday school, where they need to be. Okay, so we got lost on what we need to do.
Real quick, Chloe. I just pasted in the private chat the Student for Life YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, I know Students for Life.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great resource, I think. I've been watching a lot of their videos. So, yeah. So, definitely get involved with them if you're not already.
Yeah, Kristen Hawkins is so smart. I know who runs it. Kristen Hawkins.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, just want to make sure that. Cool. Never mind.
Okay, and I would think that we also need to, the pro-life movement is a grassroots organization. They don't get the corporate backings that the pro-choice wokeness crowds get when they shake down corporations for all kinds of money, BLM and Antifa and all those clowns. So we need to be cognizant of that and support whatever groups that are out there that continue to support pro-life legislation. And this is now it's going to be at the state levels. And the majority of the states, I was just looking, I think it was last night I was taking a look at this. The majority of the states are still allowing abortions up to 6 weeks. 6 weeks, folks. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, a girl doesn't even know she's pregnant by 6 weeks. If you don't know you're pregnant by your 6th week, okay, maybe that may be. But even with that,
what states have sealed it? Do you know that's said no abortion? Do you have a number?
And we need to. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Thank you.
But I was just looking at the current laws in those states, because this decision affect immediately. I mean, the states had laws, prohibitions already in place, saying that if the Supreme Court does indeed overturn Roe v. Wade, we are putting a ban on abortions. And that, there was a lot of states that did happen, but there's a lot of states out there with the 6 week. Go ahead, Chloe.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I
was just going to say, completely ended abortion. Arkansas, Alabama, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, South Dakota, and West Virginia completely outlawed it. Some states like Texas, Mississippi, Arizona, South Carolina, Tennessee have like little things. They're working on completely abolishing abortion as well. But those states completely abolished it.
Now, I want to ask, does that mean completely abolishing it even for cases of definite rape or incest?
Yep, completely abolished it.
I view that as actually a problem. I view that as the pendulum swinging too far to the other way, and that's going to cause problems, because that's what they're going to use to say, see, in other words, okay, what is it called? A ectopic pregnancy, where it's not really a pregnancy because the baby is in the fallopian tube. That will definitely kill the mother, and you need to excise that, okay? Because unfortunately, unless you can plant it in the uterus, which science has not progressed that far, maybe it can in years later. Yeah, that's just not going to. But my position is this, okay? Life begins at conception, but not all life is viable and not all life is desirable. Now, that desirable part you'll get hung up on. But that's what I asked you the question of, for instance, miscarriages. Is it due to it not being desirable by the mother's womb? In other words, there's a definite genetic defect where it's not attaching to the uterine wall. In other words, it's a genetic defect of form. Okay, because I study, I don't study, but I'm really into this whole thing on Darwinism and the mystery of life and things like that on genetics. And one thing I learned from them is that when it comes to form, okay, mutations, in other words, body form mutations, those happen early on, okay, and there are serious defects, and they cannot progress, okay. So that's what I mean by that. I don't mean, not all life is desirable. In other words, it's a rape victim, or it doesn't have blue eyes, or blonde hair, etc. Okay.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, just to kind of make it clear, ectopic pregnancies usually like end in the fetus naturally dying anyway, the baby naturally dying anyway. The
Right.
doctors don't have to like go in and remove the baby. No doctor that has their head screwed on right would consider that an abortion, because the baby's already dead. You're not going in and purposely killing a baby that's alive and viable.
Right.
Now, I would do that as when I'm an obstetrician gynecologist and a woman comes to me and she says, I have an ectopic pregnancy, the baby's dead. If I leave the baby in there, the dead baby in there, it's going to cause infection. It can cause bleeding. It's not going to be good. So in that case, yeah, I'm going to remove the baby. It's
Right,
to the
exactly.
point where the baby is okay in the womb, and she's just coming for me for just to have an abortion, just to have one. That is when I'm not okay with.
No, that's the point. Yeah.
Exactly. So the majority of the time, the fetus is already dead or is gonna die, guaranteed. So that's
Right.
like the difference between them.
No. So I totally agree with you on that. The thing is though, with the laws where they're totally outlawing abortion. Now I do agree. Okay, like I said earlier, if you allow for exceptions in rape, that just means all of a sudden there's going to be a lot of people reporting rape.
Right.
And I guarantee you, there's going to be unfortunately a lot of young men out there who are going to be charged with rape, even though they didn't rape no one. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So no, I do believe there needs to be checks and balances on that. But I do believe
maybe people respect will now gain
that's another thing. Well, I do believe in
marriage.
Well, I do believe a solution to young men having sex with women at an early age is the verse in Deuteronomy where it talks about, in statutory, what we consider statutory rape instances, you got to marry her, you can never divorce her, and you're pretty much done. I mean that would be a great deterrent. But beside that, what I'm talking about now, okay, the case in Ohio, I'm sure you all heard that, and it wasn't true-ish. Okay, there's some really funky stuff going on with it. But one thing is for sure, a 10-year-old got pregnant by a man, obviously. Okay, and they took this child to Indiana to have an abortion. But in Ohio, she could have had the abortion in Ohio anyway because it does allow for that. Okay, but I'm sorry. I mean, that's something you got to question. A 10-year-old? I don't know, man. I mean, that would be. I don't know. Again, I'm not a woman. I'm not a gynecologist.
The significance is that the doctor did not report a. From what Eric was saying earlier, the doctor did not report.
There was nobody that reported a rape. That was just a made up
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what Ron said too. It's probably a lie that Biden said.
No, it's well, okay, no. So here's what happened. Here's what I've been able to find out about this. Okay, there is a real 10-year-old, okay, that did get pregnant by a man and they did go to Indiana to have the abortion. Now, none of these doctors reported this, okay, and the woman, the pro-abortion doctor quote unquote, actually published this article in this pro-abortion news rag, okay, in Ohio, okay, and they've had to apologize for stuff they got wrong like 100 years ago. I mean, this thing is so bad. But anyway, everybody searched for any police report, okay, because no, she's a doctor, she has to report this, and nobody reported it. Well, all of a sudden, there's an investigation going on because now they want to know. So through this, finally, somebody confessed to it and said, "Yeah, I know the girl you're talking about. She's an illegal alien. Her mother's an illegal alien. And the father of this child is also an illegal alien. And evidently the father and the mother, or not the father, but the mother, okay, and this boyfriend are shacking up together, Okay, and he had sex with their 10-year-old girl and got her pregnant. Now, I'm sorry. This is where I'm kind of like, no, I'm sorry. That's a 10-year-old child. Yeah, that again, that goes to the whole life is not viable thing. I think that would be extreme health risk to a 10-year-old child. Not to mention, I mean, I'm sorry, all kinds of complications with that. So that's where I would actually say, even though I believe that life begins at conception, but the other rules applying, I believe that should be allowed in that case, and it is allowed in that case in Ohio. But the whole thing on that's why this whole thing is so fishy. No, they went to Indiana to cover this up, is what they did. Okay. But again, my point is this: we can go with these laws can go so far to the other side, where the left, the pro-abortionists, will use this as ammunition and say,
okay, so let me
"See?"
get Rad. Hold on just
Yeah.
a second. Let me just make sure I get your position right. You're not saying it's okay for a 10-year-old to have an abortion. You're saying that using this argument against the pro-life crowd will be detrimental to the pro-life crowd's position in the future.
Well, I am saying I would be okay with a 10-year-old having an abortion in this kind of situation, because I'm sorry, I just do not see. I do not see how this child can carry a child to term. I mean, you know what I mean? I just do not see that.
Well,
I don't.
I mean, if you look at Muhammad had, you should do that.
Yeah, but Aisha didn't have any children. Duh. There's a reason for that.
There you go. All right, Mary, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mary.
Hello.
Mary.
I wanted to come up and talk about the specific case. So, the youngest child to ever have a documented pregnancy was 5 years old, and she was in South America. I don't remember the country. And she carried the baby to term and had a C-section. She later didn't remember being pregnant, and recent genetic tests have revealed it was her father, but because they didn't have genetic tests back then, he did not get convicted, unfortunately.
I have to see the documentation.
Hang on, my turn.
I'd have to see the documentation. Go ahead. I'd have to see the
I go to the Guinness Book of World Records. It's extraordinarily well documented with photos. So it is absolutely true that a 5-year-old got pregnant, carried the child to term, and had a C-section, went on to have her own successful family, had no memory of it because she was only 5, and went on to have a successful family of her own. The child was raised as her sibling. So this absolutely happened in the past. Now, as far as this girl goes, do you know what they did to her when they gave her the abortion?
That I do not know, but I know they whisked her to cover of darkness to Indiana.
So here's what happens. Here's what happened to her. She was raped by a man who was probably known to the family. Let's put it that way. Okay.
It was the mother's boyfriend. It was the mother's boyfriend.
Well, I don't think that has been officially confirmed yet, but it seems kind of likely that something like that is happening. But so she was raped by someone who was in a position of trust in the family. Then she was taken by her mother to a place where she was surrounded by authority figures in medical garb. And those authority figures in medical garb took her, put her on a cold table while her mother was there, cranked open her vagina, shoved instruments into her vagina, and cranked open her cervix, shoved instruments through her cervix into her uterus. Then they scraped and suctioned her uterus and then pulled them out again. She was raped a second time. She was graphically, horribly, terribly raped a second time because it made the adults feel better, like they were fixing something by raping her again. And no 10-year-old would understand this as happening for any other reason except that she let herself get raped the first time. So this is what she believes that she deserves, to have people invade her most private parts in a room where she was humiliated in front of people, to invade her most private parts because that's all she's worth, because that happened to her before. That is the message that forced abortion sends. That's the message that the abortion being done to a young girl who doesn't really understand what's going on since. It absolutely would have been more compassionate to let her carry the child and have a scheduled C-section. And in addition, the scheduled C-section would be much less likely to endanger her future fertility. Approximately 10% of women who have an abortion, who are sexually active and trying to conceive, right? They have a D&C for whatever reason, not necessarily an abortion. Approximately 10% are unable to conceive in the next 12 months. That means that they now reach the bar of infertility. So if you're unable to conceive for 12 months, you're considered infertile, and they weren't before. And that's just one D&C. So they have endangered her future fertility. They have raped her horribly, graphically again, this time with authority figures basically saying that this is what you deserve. This is what should happen to you. Because of what did happen to you, this is how you should be treated. This is what you are worth. And
Mary.
yes.
When you say raped the second time, are you just saying that she had an abortion?
She had instruments shoved into her vagina. So she had instruments.
That's an abortion.
It's a medical
right?
rape.
That's an abortion.
Well,
it is.
Yes, it's a medical rape.
Okay,
because she's a little girl.
Yes, ma'am.
She is a little girl.
Yes, ma'am.
She is a little girl. Okay. She is a small child who doesn't understand what's happening.
Okay.
And they
so
gave her an abortion.
She is
so
having.
Then you're just calling that a rape.
So that would be a medical rape in that case, because she is not, frankly, a hardened, promiscuous woman who no longer has feelings of shame and embarrassment whenever anything happens down there. Very bluntly.
Okay. I
so,
see your word of language.
Because of that,
I understand. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, because of that, she would experience it as a rape, and it would be a betrayal done by the person who betrayed her in the first place by letting this happen to her, and then betrays her again and says, basically, this is what you're worth. This is what should happen to you. Things should be shoved up you because that's what you're worth. I don't think people understand how dehumanizing medical procedures can be, even for well-balanced adult women, right? Men joke about, for example, the doctors sticking fingers up their bum. But they understand that that's invasive, right? They understand that that kind of stays with you and makes you feel uncomfortable, and it's kind of there in your mind. Prostate exams are like not something nice. This is more than that. This is so much more than that. And it's happening to a little girl because the adults don't want to deal with the reality of what they let happen. So the girl pays the price again. If you ask a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old or even a 12-year-old little girl, you have a baby inside you right now. Do you want it to grow up or do you want it to die? They will just lisp out that they want it to grow up because they have not yet been enculturated into the pro-death mentality. They don't understand what being a mother is. They don't understand birth either. And no, a C-section is not normally something that I would want a woman to go through if she could avoid it. However, in this case, it would be the safest, and you can do C-sections under general anesthesia. So she would wake up just like she had some sort of other surgery that she would have to have. And she would have a live baby. And you could tell her, and the child would be fine with this, it's that he did something wrong when he put a baby inside of you. Because one of the things that he did, when he did this to you, is they put a baby inside of you. Now, babies are wonderful, but you're too little for a baby. And it wasn't right that he did this, and that's something for grown-ups. And because he did this evil thing, that it was evil for him, but the baby is still a baby. This whole, the baby of the rapist thing is this really twisted fabrication that assigns the evil of the father to an innocent child, and it's messed up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not something that how a child would understand it.
Okay. So you brought up some valid points. Definitely so. The whole raping the child again. Okay, totally valid. And again, I don't know if you were here when I said this, but the whole argument that for allowing for rape, I don't know if you heard my response to that. But if you go back in our genetic history, every single human being on this planet is the progeny of a rape victim. Okay, we cannot escape that fact. Okay, whether it, I mean, seriously, I mean, think about this. Rape was a tool of war. Rape was I mean, seriously, there was no dating. There was no. So we are all progeny of a rape victim at some point in our genetic history. Okay, probably maybe multiple. Okay, as well. So if you're arguing that abortion should be committed in rape, you're arguing for your own destruction. My point is this. Okay, 2 points. One, okay, look, I'm going to have to research this. I'm a 10-year-old child. I'm carrying a child to term. I'm thinking the child would explode. Okay, I don't know. Okay, I'm not thinking this is a good thing. So I'm not arguing that to kill the child because of rape. I am arguing about that, or the abortion is to be done to protect the actual child's future of not dying. Okay, so that's my point on that as well.
So hang on. But was there any actual?
Hold on. It's my time. Hold on, my time. But my whole point, my bigger point is this: is that these laws, we can go too far to the right, and the problem with going too far is that this kind of stuff is used as ammunition, which will be used to overturn overturning of Roe v. Wade, or put into or elect Democrats to office who will solidify abortion at the federal level. Okay, which means, guess what? That means all abortions are now legal again, up to any age. What I'm saying is, yes, unfortunately, it is a dirty reality. It really is, okay? That, yes, okay? We want to save as many lives as we possibly can, okay? We cannot save them all, but we need to save as many as we can. Just like a fireman going into a building that's burning down with children inside. He might not be able to save them all, but he can save some. And that's my point. There is a danger in going way too far to the other side with this, with outlawing abortion, just blanket statement, all abortions are outlawed. Okay? That is my main position on this. And I am telling you, because the pendulum swings the other way. Just as easy as it swung this way, it can very easily swing back the other way in a few years. Remember, we are a democracy, unfortunately, and the democracy, as they said in Rome, is fickle. Okay? And that's my point. Anyway, go ahead.
So if her life was immediately in danger, then abortions always can be performed, or at least birth stimulated or whatever. There was no evidence at that moment that her life is not in danger right then. Now, if you just guess that her life will be in danger, and if enough doctors guess that, then she would still be permitted an abortion. I still think that it would be far more harmful to the child's future to perform the abortion if it is unnecessary than not. Far more harmful. And the way that it was harmful. Hang on. So you said in all cases, you were talking as if ectopic pregnancies are abortions, which, the treatment for that.
No, you didn't hear me.
But they're not.
No,
you're saying that you're afraid that they'll use it and it'll swing the other way. Well, you did earlier say that banning ectopic pregnancy treatment, nobody was doing that. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's being
I agree with you. No, I agree with you.
So
no, that's what I said. So you're totally misunderstanding my position.
Now, and talking about the pendulum swinging, no matter what, they will come up with a sob story. So you say, fine, it's allowed in rape. Well, what's rape? Can the woman just say, oh, I was raped? But then later, but you must file a police report. Oh, but she was too scared to file a police report because then he would kill her. So she didn't get the abortion that she deserved, and she was forced to bear the child. Okay, fine. She did file. Hang on. She did file the accusation, and it turns out later that was determined to be without merit. But she truly was raped, and now she's up on charges for killing her baby, and that's so unfair. No matter what, there will be sob stories. And the
I have a
issue
way of
is
ending
that
those arguments.
we are dehumanizing the child to start with, that we are considering the child, a human life, to have very questionable rights. No child's life should be taken away without due process of the law, which means life-saving treatment. That would be with the unfortunate occurrence that the baby dies as a result of life-saving treatment. Absolutely. Everybody agrees on that. Anything else, then you're saying that the baby does not have a right to life.
You're arguing against a position I do not hold. As a matter of fact, you argued against positions that I clearly stated were not what you just stated they were. Seriously, as anybody can testify who listened to me, I said that if you allow for abortions and rape, they will just ask for more. I said that if you allow for abortions and rape, the only thing that will happen is that unfortunately there are going to be a lot of young men who are accused of rape.
Right.
This is what I stated, okay? Very clearly. Not only that, but my position is simply this. If you just ban and just say no abortions, period, okay, then they're going to use the ectopic pregnancy. I also stated ectopic pregnancy.
No, they
is not
aren't,
a
because ectopic pregnancy is not an abortion.
They're already doing it. No, this is what you're not getting. They're already using an argument. I stated very clearly and clearly agreed with me, an ectopic pregnancy is not a pregnancy. But
oh my goodness, it's
that.
not an abortion to treat an ectopic pregnancy, and that's what Chloe agreed with.
I get you. Okay, I get you. What I am saying is we need to take the weapons away from them.
They don't have that weapon. No one is banning ectopic pregnancy.
Hello,
no one is.
Hello. I agree with you. They're not. But they're still using that weapon. Why? Because they're
relying on the gullibility of people who don't understand that it's not an abortion.
Listen. Because if you have a state that just bans abortion outright, okay, they can and they will use that argument. What I am saying to you is this. These laws that ban abortion need to actually have definite exceptions. That the woman's life has to, then it needs to be promoted as there needs to be these exceptions. As of right now, a total abortion ban in these states, okay, unless it is clarified and codified in law with these examples, because this is the way things work in law.
They all are. They all have life of the mother exceptions. All of them.
Here's what we're going to do, folks. Rad, hold up. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what, you guys ready? Okay, I'm not Paul, where I can hang out for...
All right.
Did Paul leave? Paul left? Paul left even. What do you think? I'm going to give you both 1 minute, and then I'm going to make a closing statement. So, which one wants to go first?
Well, I'll go first because I want to leave really quick because she's arguing.
No,
I'm sorry. Whoever this is arguing against a position that I do not hold. Okay? So you're arguing against a position that I do not hold. What I am stating very clearly and very frankly is that if you totally and completely go too far and outlaw all abortions for whatever reason, that is going too far. And that will be used against you to get abortion back into these state laws. That is what I'm saying. We have to be very careful in these laws. We have to specifically point out legislative-wise, okay, these exemptions and what these exemptions are. We have to be very careful on these exemptions. Like I said, if you allow for abortion to be done in rape, that means, okay, that they're going to have to produce a rape file, okay, or a rape complaint in law. Now, we have to be also very careful because that could mean a lot of young men are going to be accused of rape and they didn't rape anyone, okay? So, again, this is a tricky wicket. I agree with it, okay? Finally, on this thing, I will have to do research and look at the 10-year-old child if it is feasible, if it can be done. But you brought up a valid point that it should be up to actual doctors, not abortionists, okay, that will monitor this child's life. And if this child's life is actually in danger because of this pregnancy, then the pregnancy is removed. Preferably if it's viable, I don't know, maybe we can plan it in an actual healthy female. But either way, you're arguing against a position I do not hold. Okay? So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Rad. Mary, your turn.
All right, so he explicitly made the point that maybe we should allow exceptions for rape, but this can have other unintended consequences. The exception for rape itself, as an exception, says that those conceived at the circumstances of your conception determine whether or not you are a person deserving of human rights. Every single abortion bill already has explicit language that states that ectopic pregnancies treatment is not abortion. And they also say that abortions are allowed in the case the life of a mother is threatened, although abortion is not the actual treatment when the life of a mother is threatened. Instead, they have you deliver at whatever stage you're at, because they don't just chop up your baby just because you have sudden health problems. Even if your baby isn't going to live, they don't chop up your baby unless you want your baby to be chopped up and that's what you like. If you don't want your baby to be chopped into pieces, they induce labor, and then you can hold your baby, whatever size, if usually those are much considerably later in the pregnancy, second trimester very often. You can hold your baby and say goodbye to your baby, and you don't have to have your baby dismembered, because that's what happens in second trimester of pregnancy, in order to keep from dying. If your baby does not survive because your baby is incapable of surviving, then at least you can say goodbye.
This is the great thing about our show. We can disagree with one another and not go jihadi on each other. And I understand the perspective from both angles. And let me just give you the final answer and the correct answer to this. Number one, Nim Grace. I would never want to be a defendant standing in front of Nim Grace if she was the judge, because here we go. What did she say? She was talking about bobbiting people right now. So that's the answer. If you're a rapist, you get bobbited. Second thing you do is, let me do this. All you have to do in order to get somebody to not want to have an abortion is you do this. And I'm being selfish here, but you show them something like that.
Aww.
You show them what life is and what life is about. And you change the hearts of people one at a time. And I get it, Rad. You don't want to give the left any more ammunition than what is necessary. And I absolutely understand, Mary, every single life is precious. But until we start changing the hearts of people in society as a whole, this is what they're going to thrive on, is these differences that we have over here on the fringe, instead of looking at changing their hearts. And only God can do that. And I think we could all agree on that only God can change a heart. Chloe, she did make it. She had to go too. So I guess she went over to Clubhouse too. Everybody that came today, thank you so much for coming. Did you guys come up with a topic for Tuesday? Because I was thinking about having Avery on Tuesday, but he does his own live stream on Tuesdays.
Do you mind if I ask a quick question? I'm sorry,
yes.
I had difficulty because my phone dropped and it ran out of charge.
All right, go ahead, Isa. Go ahead.
Is there a way of being pro-life without being punitive about it? See, the issue that I have with these situations is, if we make it illegal, then people get punished. And is that the right thing to do, instead of taking a kind of an angle where you're like actually supporting women and supporting families who might have difficulty in this situation? I think the punitive element is the thing that bothers me the most about this situation. If, one could say, I disagree with this perspective, right? But should we punish people who do this? Because, let's say people were pro-vegan and said everyone must be vegan. It's a similar kind of analogy. They could say, well, I believe veganism is correct, and if you eat meat, you will be punished. I'm not sure that is an appropriate perspective in dealing with this situation.
Well, what have punishments at all?
I would
say everything's okay. I don't understand that.
I would love to answer that one.
Go ahead, Marion.
So, would you say the same thing to the cheerleader who threw her baby in the pool and drowned it? At what age does it stop? At what age does it matter that you kill the baby? It's still a human life. This is not an animal. This is a human being. We have absolute certain knowledge of when human life begins. And that human life begins at conception. This is not like a theoretical thing. It's not like a maybe thing. It's not like we're guessing, as we, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, we may have been guessing, right? We don't know when life really begins. We know that a new organism, a unique human being, is formed at the moment of conception. This is not under debate. The question is killing a human being something that should be punished, Or are some human beings so worthless that you can just kill them? And who are those human beings who are so worthless? Where do you stop and why? So are there were some girls with some signs saying that parasites have no rights. Guess what? Jews were called parasites by a certain person. Lots of people have been called parasites. Lots of people have been dehumanized by different groups of people. If we have a human being who is a human being, then it is appropriate to punish someone for killing a human being, whether or not they are, pre-born, the moment that they're born, 2 years old, 3 years old, 5 years old, or 105. It doesn't matter. They're a human being. It's very clear when life begins.
Okay, so I hear that argument, and the thing that I'm curious about is, first of all, I think that the justice system in the United States is a failure on many different levels. So I would argue that you can take a restorative justice approach. You could say, well, let me punish this person. Maybe the person has mental illness. There's a lot of reasons why people do what they do. Throwing someone in jail, what does that accomplish? Nothing.
It accomplishes justice. If you don't believe in justice, then you don't believe in the Bible.
Yeah.
If you're just dehumanizing groups of
He's
people,
not a Christian, Mary. He's not a Christian.
well, that's clear.
But Isa, it takes the criminal away so that he can sit there and think what he's doing, and he's out of harm's way. That's why you discipline someone.
Okay, folks,
If I could just really quickly interject here, Isa, I understand exactly what you're saying, and that is kind of the problem with the pro-life movement, is that, well, we focus, okay, on the procedure, or I shouldn't say the procedure, on the death of the infant. Yes, that is a focus thing, but we do not take into account, okay, this mother. That's why I like that Students for Life, okay, which I actively promote and I do donate to. Okay, their method is this, okay, that this mother, okay, is being pressured by everyone, okay. Everyone in her support staff, okay, in her support area is being pressured. This young college student or whatever, young teenager, is being pressured to have an abortion, okay? That is her only option, okay? Instead of focusing on that's a baby in your womb, because she knows it's a baby in her womb. There is no one, I'm not a woman and I do not pretend to be one, okay? But there is no woman that I know of that does not know that that is a baby in her womb, okay? All right, they know it, okay? They can feel it growing, they can feel it kicking, et cetera, et cetera. But bottom line is this, instead of focusing on that, we need to focus on the support structure, the support staff, where we can say, no, there are other alternatives. We're going to take care of you. We're going to do the, you know what I'm saying? We're going to provide a support structure that you can deliver that baby and then make a determination. However, I will say this, there does need to be punitive damages. Okay. In other words, if we establish that support structure early on, okay, where we have the adoptive services, where we have the foster services, where we have the support to support the mother. And let me give it to you this way. If you're a young college student, a female college student, you go to college and you get pregnant, guess what? In most instances, you cannot live in the dorm. What do you mean you can't live in dorm? You still can't take classes? You still can't go there? No, so that puts a burden and a hardship on it. So guess what? In order to stay in college, it's easier and quicker, just and more affordable, if you will, to have that abortion, okay? And then you can go back and take your college classes and still stay in the dorm. That needs to change, okay? That's what I'm talking about, the support structure.
Okay,
However,
guys,
there needs to be, let me just finish up. There needs to be punitive damages where if these structures are in place, the support staff is in place, and the woman still goes to have an abortion, yes, there needs to be some punitive damages. But I will say this, there definitely needs to be punitive damages against these doctors, because they are not doctors. They are Mengele. They are butchers. And that is where I kind of draw the line on that. Anyway, sorry to finish.
So why would you say that there aren't support structures? Do you know what crisis pregnancy centers do? Do you know that they hold things like
yes? Oh my God, this woman! Sorry, woman! You do not listen to me. You are
said that there are no support structures.
Right.
You can stop screaming at me and let me have my turn. You're saying that there are not support structures, and that is a lie.
Go argue with the man.
Okay,
Go argue with the man. Go argue with the mirror.
I
Oh,
appreciate
amazing.
all of your arguments.
Seriously.
I appreciate both of your passions for this, but we're gonna go.
Man.
I got the high sign, and I got to go too.
It's absolutely disgusting that he makes false arguments and just repeats things that pro-abort say as if they have a case. He does not know the services that life centers offer. He does not know the enormous support that women get. He does not know how they're connected to huge numbers of services, how they are supported throughout birth and after, how they have mothers clubs and fathers clubs for young women into their, for the next 5-10 years. These all exist. So why are you saying they don't?
Eric,
listen, stop.
Later tonight, I do want to talk about something. Later, Eric.
We gotta go. Okay, I'll call you.
All right.
Okay,
all right, cool. Later. All right,
guys, Chloe has all kinds of rooms in Clubhouse where these issues are discussed, and this is, of course, obviously, it's a contentious issue, even with the people who are on the same side of the abortion issue. Let's see. Okay. Jesus Worldwide said that I was going to beat Paul on the 2 hours and 42 minutes, and that's just not true. We're well below that by at least 13. But listen, guys, I appreciate all of you coming here, and I appreciate your passion, your opinions, and how you further these arguments. The bottom line, though, from my perspective and in my heart, it's where God has to change the heart of people before we can start making these arguments about, people, because people are going to do what people are going to do. And it is our job, I think, to change their hearts, not legally, not from a legal point of view, but from a moral point of view. And it is a moral point of view to raise children, to bring children into this world. And because they're ultimately gifts from God. And to provide a reason or a justification to end that, I just can't get there. So everybody, God bless you.
And raise the parents. You got to get the heart of the parents too.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're right. Uh-huh. Sin cursed world we live in, do we not? But
and we are the light of the world.
And we're supposed to be. You're absolutely right.
We are.
And when we think about this 10-year-old girl, 9-year-old girl, think about being a follower of the prophet and then trying to justify your position on that. You can't. At least we as Christians have that moral basis and that standard of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we condemn all iniquity that pedalizes it and tries to make it legal. That's what makes it worse with Islam.
Hey, I wanted
to make it legal.
I was going to ask Dominic. Dominic, did you ever figure out what? You got 30 seconds. Did you ever figure out how abortion was allowed into England? Was it a?
There's a series of list of acts. So it was over time. So there was like the Abortion Act. Was it 1967? And then there was. Okay. So there was a series.
So legislatively, they allowed it then through the legislature.
They did it like law by law. So it's like they won law
and it just ending it here. You got all of Europe and. God save us. All right. God bless everybody. We will see you Tuesday, and I promise you we'll have a great subject for Tuesday on the Crescent.
Thank you, Eric.
Group.
God bless everyone.
We'll see ya. God bless you.
Let's go, Brian.